Okay, so we're diving into some heavy stuff today, huh? Listener wants to talk about the hidden costs of the military, and that's where Seymour Melman's War Inc. comes in.
Definitely heavy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was even called
Important?
Sad but Important. Yeah, the kind of book everyone should read, apparently.
Right.
And knowing that Melman was actually working on this when he passed away kind of hits different, like
Yeah.
these are his final warnings about what's at stake.
I think one of the things that Millman does so well is that he really connects the dots. He doesn't just say, military spending is big. He shows exactly how it impacts, like, our everyday lives,
Yeah.
our roads, our schools, all the stuff that we kind of take for granted.
Yeah.
He wants us to really see the true cost of being on this constant war footing.
It's about choices, right?
Mm.
Like Melman calls it the opportunity cost. Like that money that we're spending on, I don't know, tanks or whatever is money that's not going to like
Healthcare.
healthcare, better schools, all that. And he has this wild example, right?
Yeah.
He says since World War II, we could have practically rebuilt every single privately owned building in the entire U.S. with the money that went to defense.
Wow.
Like every house, every skyscraper, every factory. Think about that.
It's guns versus butter, but like
Mhm.
in a really tangible way. Every dollar that goes towards defense is a dollar that is diverted from something that could improve people's lives directly. So Melman really wants us to ask, what kind of society are we building with these priorities?
So it's not just theoretical, right? This is like that pothole you had to swerve around this morning or that news story about another school that's short on supplies because those are all little pieces of that opportunity cost that he's talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine if those resources went to making sure everyone has access to good health care or like funding groundbreaking scientific research, revitalizing communities that are struggling.
Right.
These aren't separate issues. They're all connected to how we choose to allocate these resources.
And the thing is, Melman doesn't just like point fingers from afar. He goes inside the system.
Yeah.
Like, did you know that in some military industries there are like 3 times as many administrators as actual production workers?
That's amazing.
The bureaucracy is out of control.
It's really interesting because it shows you how the system actually functions.
Right.
It's not always about efficiency. It's about maximizing how much is being spent. And, the more complex they can make it, the more it justifies these bigger budgets, whether or not they're actually effective.
Yeah, and he tells the story, I think it's in the book, about this one company that had 210 Pentagon employees on site,
Oh, wow.
plus like 10 officers or something, all supposedly there to oversee this one company.
Yeah.
No wonder these projects go billions over budget, right? I mean, you've got that many people, they got to justify their jobs somehow.
Right. It creates this cycle where the complexity just breeds more bureaucracy and it makes it harder to even track where the money is going. And Melman, he wants us to see those connections between these seemingly insignificant details
Right.
and the bigger picture.
And speaking of those connections,
Yeah.
Mel, he doesn't let us forget about the impact on American manufacturing, right?
Right.
He calls it deindustrialization, and it's like more than just a buzzword with him. He's
Yeah.
got this whole table in the book listing all these industries where the U.S. has just fallen way behind.
It's actually kind of shocking to see it all laid out like,
Yeah.
we're talking machine tools, these essential components for like all kinds of manufacturing. We used to be the ones making this stuff for the world.
It's like we traded our factory floors for, I don't know, more tanks or something.
Yeah.
And it's not just some abstract economic thing, This is real jobs. This is like whole communities that are feeling this impact.
Right.
Remember how we were talking about opportunity costs? I mean, this is where it's really hitting home.
Absolutely. And Melman makes this really compelling argument about the role of the military's dominance in research and development. All that money poured into military tech. It's money that's not going towards innovations that could benefit, everyone's everyday life.
Yeah.
Like it's not going towards things that could improve people's lives.
Right. It's like we're stuck in this endless loop of like, let's just build the most advanced weapons while, other countries are investing in, I don't know, renewable energy or like affordable housing things that actually improve people's lives directly.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the potential breakthroughs that we might have missed out on, right?
Right.
What if we had our best minds tackling climate change or finding cures for diseases instead of designing the next generation of fighter jet? Makes you wonder.
Yeah. And it's not just some hypothetical future either.
Right.
Like, Melman uses the example of the Singer sewing machine company. I mean, they were the name in American manufacturing, and now most of their production's overseas.
Yeah.
That's a direct hit, you know?
It is, and it highlights the human cost of these policy
Hmm.
decisions. Behind those statistics of declining industries are real people who've lost their jobs, their livelihoods, even just their sense of purpose.
Right.
And, their stories are a really crucial part of understanding the full impact of what Melman's describing.
Yeah, kind of bleak, honestly, when you really get into it. But, I mean, Melman doesn't just leave us with this, like, doom and gloom picture.
Yeah.
He actually offers some solutions, some ways to kind of turn things around. He points to the American Society of Civil Engineers report card, which, spoiler alert, doesn't paint a pretty picture.
No, not at all. They gave our infrastructure like a D.
Oh. Oof.
Yeah, not exactly a stellar report card. But, Melman sees this as an opportunity.
Okay.
They're basically handing us a to-do list, right?
Yeah.
Roads, bridges, water systems, it all needs attention.
So instead of building more weapons, we could be, like, rebuilding America.
Exactly.
And not in some vague, make something great again kind of way,
Yeah.
but in a way that actually, like, improves life for everyone.
Yeah.
And get this, he compares us to Japan and Germany.
Yeah.
You know, they've got these thriving economies, high standards of living, and guess what? They prioritize civilian industry over military spending.
It's a really powerful comparison,
Yeah.
They're investing in their people, in their future, and they're seeing the results. And Melman wants us to understand that true national security is not just about, military might. It's about the well-being of your citizens, the strength of your infrastructure, the quality of your education system. All of these things factor in.
Okay, so that's hopeful and all, but how do we actually, like, shift gears like that?
Yeah.
I mean, Melman doesn't exactly give us, like, a step-by-step guide, does he? Well, not a step-by-step, but he gives us the framework to think about it, you know? And it's funny, he wrote this book before China became, like, the economic powerhouse it is today, but reading it now, it's almost eerie how relevant it feels.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he's talking about that this focus on the military-industrial complex leads to deindustrialization, right?
Mhm.
Like, we neglect our own infrastructure while we're busy trying to, police the world. And then you look at China, and they've been laser-focused on becoming, the world's factory floor.
And they're crushing it, right?
Mm.
Building high-speed rail, these massive ports, cutting-edge factories, and meanwhile, we're over here, like, trying to keep our bridges from falling down.
Yeah.
It's like we're playing checkers and they're playing three-dimensional chess or something.
And that's what Melman wants us to see.
Yeah.
Economic strength and national security.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely intertwined. If you're a country that's not investing in its own people, its infrastructure, its own capacity to produce, you're setting yourself up to fail. It doesn't matter how big your military is.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now, Melman's War Inc.? It's not just some depressing read, It's a wake-up call. It's about understanding that we have a choice in how we allocate our resources, what we decide to prioritize as a nation.
It's about asking the tough questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are my tax dollars going? What am I getting in return? It's about demanding more from our leaders.
Yeah.
And holding them accountable for the choices that they make.
100%. So, next time you hit that pothole or you read about another factory closing down or you see another headline about a military budget increase, remember Melman's message, there's always a cost, even when it's hidden. This deep dive, this was all about giving you the knowledge. What you do with it, well, that's where your real power lies.